Marie. I am sitting here outside looking at the biggest moon ever. It's so big and so lovely. And I am up in the mountains of Arizona in Sedona. Y'all, it is absolutely breathtaking up here. I am with my parents and it's just been such an amazing trip. It's actually been a week. It's been a week. Um, my dad had a health scare, and it's these moments when we remember just how precious life is. My mom was actually just reflecting on that. It's funny how fleeting life is and how precious it is. And it's like you want to hold both in tandem with each other so that we don't waste a moment, but then we also recognize how it is fleeting. So I've just been kind of in this contemplative state, I guess you could say, for the last couple of days. And, with today turning February 1st, the second month of the year, that's another reason for contemplation of just how fast life goes. And it really does go quickly. The months, particularly in winter, especially because at the first of the year, we just feel invincible in some ways. So, like, time doesn't seem to move quickly. And all of a sudden it's today and it's February 1st and we're like, oh my gosh, it's already the second month of the year, and there's so much that happened in January. And so with kind of being contemplative around my dad's health challenges and then also being contemplative with the turn of the month, I'm just thinking tonight about this concept of what's our echo chamber, what's the world that we find ourselves in. Who are we listening to? What are we musing about? What fills our brain and our mind, and what fills our conversation? What fills our day? And whose voices is kind of the ones that we're engaging with, whether it's an input from an external source, whether it's actually taking time to invest in our own thoughts and kind of mulling over what are the things and questions that I have within me that I'm either wrestling with or trying to kind of land on what do I believe about a certain topic, whether it's a podcast that we're tuning into and listening to on a daily basis, a text message thread with friends. Every single one has big results. And so the question is, what is the echo chamber that we're really feeding ourselves with? And so I was thinking about that. Actually, there was a conversation on A Course in Miracles daily show. So we go live every morning, and there was someone said something that they were going to do, and they were going to make a decision. Them and their girlfriend were going to decide to go in a direction, and just in by way of a 30-minute live, actually, I think it was only 20 minutes at the end of the conversation, they were like, you know what, I think I might do something different. And because we were collaborating, we were talking around what are other options beyond just that incident and that decision that they were going to make. And, a lot of times when we think about the jobs that we choose, the religious beliefs that we hold, the decision to have kids or not to have kids, our life partner, we really do exist in an echo chamber. And a lot of times we're not getting beliefs or opinions outside of that. And so it's been really important over the last, I guess, honestly, for the last 4 years, I've been traveling a lot. I've been living kind of nomadically, and it's put me in new rooms, and it's put me in a lot of different echo chambers, so to say, that are echo chambers in and of themselves. And so I've like stepped into these echo chambers, and I've stepped into a room where everyone is holding similar beliefs, everyone's holding a similar worldview, and I step in and I listen and I kind of attune my ear to the pulse of the room. Because when people are holding a similar belief, or maybe it's not necessarily a belief, but it's actually we all engage with the world in a very gregarious way and we're very outgoing, or maybe it's a support group and so we've all struggled with the same thing. Each one of these echo chambers has a pulse, each one of them. And when I say pulse, it's like there's actually, you can kind of sense like, oh, this is a group where they all look the same way, sound the same way, show up the same way. And the very first time that I really stepped into a completely different echo chamber that I ever had experienced, I went to the Bitcoin Miami conference in 2022. And I was sitting there, wearing professional attire because that's what I wore for the most part for my career. And I was just sitting there. I didn't know anyone, not a single person. And I was sitting there in this conference of probably oh gosh, I don't even want to try to say how many people. There was at least 5,000, if not more. I mean, the Miami Conference Center is huge, and so I was sitting at this conference knowing nobody. It was a month or two after, my marriage ended, and I just was kind of like, all right, let's see what Bitcoin and crypto is all about. And so I was sitting there and I just was watching people, and I had never been in a room with so much diversity. Some people were wearing business attire like me, a pantsuit or a skirt and a blazer, while others were literally wearing feathers, like big block heels and colorful, literal feathers off their back. Other people were wearing sequins and others were wearing all denim, and it was just like this cacophony of people, this cacophony of voices and ideas and ways of living and approaches to life. And I had never found myself in such a unique and diverse room. And then 4 months later, I found myself sitting in the back of a room. My company had been hired to work with a partner for Amazon. And we were, sitting, and well, I was sitting in the back of the room at the time, but leading up to this event for Amazon, we had written all of the social media, the website content, the scripts of what was being said on stage. And then that was a room where I was sitting in the back, and it was a room full where I looked different from every other person. There was maybe one or two other people that physically looked like me. And it was such a good experience to actually be such a, in one sense, fish out of water. And yet I got to learn so much about different cultures and the way people think and the way that their experience of how they've experienced the world and witnessed the world and moved through the world that I never have experienced because I have a different culture than they do. And I got to know this different group of people in such a beautiful and profound way. It was like I got a sneak peek into their world. So Bitcoin was number one. This group with Amazon was another. And then I've just continued to move on into different echo chambers. And I think that with that process of travel, and even travel in and of itself, going to a different country and immersing myself with a different culture this past year, well, I guess 2025, last year, I did a workaway, which if you go to, I think it's workaway.com, you can go and you can stay with a host family anywhere in the world where they offer this, and you exchange your work for housing. And it was so cool. I was there with 4 other people who were doing this workaway. We were on this little island off of Italy called Ischia, and we were tending a vineyard. And so we all would show up and put in about 4 or 5 hours of work, and then we'd have the rest of the day to just like play and hang out. And it was amazing. So for any of you who want to do something like that, it's literally free. You stay in exchange for the hours of work that you put in. And then this host family gave us a car, a place to stay, and all the food. It was such an amazing experience. And in that experience, I got to stay with, I'm from the US. There was a gal from Belgium, someone from Germany, someone from the UK. I think Portugal was another person. And by way of doing that 1 week immersion experience, I got to know these other cultures at a such deeper level. And I also got to understand how America is viewed. So like America in and of itself is an echo chamber. So not just these small little rooms that we find ourselves in, but actually the country that we find ourselves in can itself be an echo chamber. And so continuing to have experiences to break us out of echo chambers, it's much less so, what's the echo chamber of my phone's algorithm? What's the algorithm that I'm being fed to self-perpetuate the thoughts that I have around the world, around myself, around other countries, other people groups, religions, cultures? And so this process over the last 4 years of stepping into these different echo chambers and coming to understand not just what they believe, but also how I'm viewed. I actually had this girl from Belgium. She made this comment after when I was at that workaway. So this is where, you go and you stay with the host family for a week, and it was awesome. And she was like, "You have stop words." And I was like, what do you mean? What's that? And she said it's effectively a filler word. And so she identified by just spending 3 days with me, something that none of my family ever had called out, none of my friends had ever called out, but this random girl from another country, she was just engaging with me and she liked me. We were friends. And yet she was calling out these things about me that no one close to me ever had. And by way of her doing that, she helped me grow. And so what she meant by a stop word was effectively, I'll say, Oh, I love that. That's my stop word, is like this phrase of to fill the silence, and I genuinely do love a lot of things. But I would say, "Oh, I love that," or "That's so cool." And so that was my stop word, and I never had that reflected back to me. And so by way of moving out of my own echo chamber, I get to know so much more about the world, and I also get to see a mirror held up for me in a way that I would never otherwise. There's only so much that we can see on our own. Relationships are going to be one of the surest pathways to know ourselves so much better. Before, well, actually, after my husband and I got a divorce, there was this season where I just looked in the mirror. Actually, there was not just a season. I've continued to do that, but there was a season for about 3 years where I was single and just continued to look in the mirror and like, what did I do? What's every little bit that I contributed to that marriage ending? Whether it was 5%, 50%, 500%, let me own every single ounce of it so that hopefully I can grow. And I just had this thought of like, let me squeeze every bit of lesson from this pain. Because in the past, when my brother-in-law was killed, I didn't do that. I actually kept the pain and like held it really close to me, and I never moved through it or processed it or examined it. I was just like, that pain was actually part of my identity, and it became something that was like very comforting to me, but it also kept me so isolated from people because I never talked about it and processed it. So I was so lonely in this pain, but it was also part of who I made myself to be during that time. And then when my marriage ended, it was like, okay, I actually saw what I did before, what was an unhealthy way of processing pain. And now with this next level of devastation, what's the right way to experience it? And I was just reading this book by David Hawkins called Letting Go, and he's talking about grief. And in order to move through the grief, we effectively have to realize the anger that we feel, and then realize all these different like layers that can effectively suppress our grief. And so by allowing the truth of what we're feeling to come to light, then we can actually move through the grief. And so I really had to look in the mirror and grieve who I was in my marriage. Like when I looked in the mirror, effectively what I saw was that I had been living as a non-person. Like I had just been living completely reactive rather than being proactive based according to what I wanted or who I was or who God made me to be. It was just like, what do you want? Who do you want me to be? I just want to make you happy. And so it was so fixated on everyone around me that there wasn't an authentic. I was as authentic as I could be, but man, when we get down to those layers and those roots of who am I, man, our relationships become so much more potent and so much more powerful. And now the connection is so much more raw and genuine. And so for so long, I couldn't actually experience raw and real connection with people because I wasn't coming from a deep place. I was kind of staying. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago around like, think of us as like what's it called? The ice. What is it called? Not the it's like when you've got, oh golly, this is so funny. Let me check out the chat. Hey guys, sorry, I've just been going on tonight and I haven't checked up with the chat here. Somebody help me out. An ice when it's underneath. This is so funny. I know what it is, but somebody help me in the chat, please. Kenneth, J5 Productions. I'll just keep going. But like when you are looking at water and there's so much ice beneath the surface, and then there's that little bit of ice that you see above, that's what we so often see. And then when we're ignoring everything below, man, there's this whole wealth of knowledge about ourselves that we have no idea about. And so then we find out, man, why am I so reactive? Why am I so responsive to things that like I didn't even know was there? And then what we end up experiencing is because there's so much hidden underneath that we've never learned about, never explored. We kind of get to become explorers of our own souls in some ways, explorers of our own hearts and minds when we come to realize that there's so much more than we ever. The iceberg. Thank you. A glacial works too. What the heck was that? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I saw it in my I like saw it in my mind's eye, but I couldn't remember what the name of it is. So thank you guys. Also, I'm just going to take a quick moment to pause here because um, I lose some of these comments. It like gets deleted for me. But anyways, um, I'm just going to save them here so that I'll actually come back and read the comments later. A lot of times I'll actually read them in the moment. So, oh, Kyle, I'm so glad to see you. So anyways, uh, let me actually check in with the chat since I'm here now. Will Castro, good to see you. Fabio, thank you for coming on here. Oh, thank you. James, Conky, J5, M. Joel, Will Castro, Paul, Learning, Kent Kill Cam, good to see you. Y'all, it's wild. This conversation around echo chambers. What's our echo chamber? What's yours? And you know what's funny? What's funny is that this chat, our conversations can be an echo chamber in and of themselves. And so my goal is that I'm constantly putting myself in different rooms, reading different things that are challenging to me. Jordan Peterson talks about effectively in my own mind, I should be able to battle out old belief systems that I've had, current belief systems that I have. And then in the battling, in the working out together, I go deeper, I expand. So it's the depth and the breadth. And that effectively, the water covering the iceberg, thank you all for your help there. The water covering the iceberg just gets less. And then I start being able to expose more of myself to those I love so that, man, my family, my friends, they are able to experience the real you and me on a consistent basis, because that's another thing. Man, if we're only vulnerable and we dip our toe into the water of vulnerability, people get to see more of us, and then we shrink back into our turtle shell. Well, they're going to actually be experiencing very inconsistent yous and me, Fabio, James, Christine. It's like Kyle. They're going to be experiencing very disparate people, very different, and they're like, wait, what's going on? And that's where cognitive dissonance comes into play. And cognitive dissonance is something that I had no idea about until, I guess, a couple of years ago. It was right when I was starting to learn about emotional intelligence. I actually started to learn about emotional intelligence by way of the Enneagram, which is a personality test. And I just started, one of my dearest friends at the time, she was really into this personality test. And then I started reading the different types and trying to understand, like, wait, what actually motivates me? And that was the first question I really ever asked of myself. And then as I started to dive into, oh, well, okay, what motivates me? What do I need? What do I want? That's when I started being brave enough and willing enough to go to therapy and actually start healing from my brother-in-law's death 6 years before. And in that process, and even just the willingness in and of itself, when we're willing, when we're brave enough to look in the mirror, it's like parts of us are waiting to unveil itself. It's like, oh, I've been waiting for someone to pay attention. It's like when we're kids and we're just looking for someone to share our story with, or good news or question, and we're looking for someone to talk to. When we start to listen, there's a lot inside that's waiting to tell us what it knows. There's a lot inside that's been kind of looking for someone just willing to pay attention and willing to take the time. And we were talking this morning about what's it called? Course in Miracles. And we were talking about this concept of caretaking and becoming the caretakers of our souls and really allowing for our souls to feel safe. And the soul is really what was it? Thomas More calls it the seat of the emotion. So our soul is like where our emotions live. And then obviously the intellect and the mind go hand in hand. And it's just really fascinating, because in coming to know this right hemisphere of the brain, this 50% of us, like that's a big part of who we are. So if we're only paying attention to the intellect and never paying attention to the emotions, we're actually shutting off a big part of what makes us human. And think about that. What differentiates you and me from AI? We've got feelings, we've got emotions. The AI has all the intellect. We do too. And we have the emotions, and AI doesn't have emotions. And so, us being able to know who we are actually is one of the greatest signals and the greatest assets to what fundamentally separates us from these robots that are so very powerful, very, there's such propensity for good. But if we don't know truly the depth of who we are, people are going to AI to form these meaningful, deep relationships because they don't know how to do it with other people. So, the more we come to know who we are, the depth of the relationship is contingent on the depths of the individuals. So do you and I go deep in knowing ourselves? And then do we go wide as well? Do we actually go beyond the echo chamber? That's easy. It's sometimes it's really awkward to go in. Actually, a lot of times it's really awkward to go into new rooms. I moved to Arizona recently, and like I'm planning to go to some associations for trade businesses, and like I'm going to be going into rooms alone by myself, with strangers that I've never met. That's awkward. That's hard. And in that process, it's an expansion. It's like every single show, every single morning, every single evening when we're having these conversations, it's going to the gym, it's going into the arena and working out our minds, working out our souls, working out our spirits, and putting in the reps so that when we go into a new room, we know how to show up. When we have tragedy strike, we're able to deploy the reservoir that we've been building up within us of like effectively leftovers and this ability to pull from strength. It's like I'm not just working out and building up strength just for today. It's like, man, I'm actually building up for the future so that when the trial comes, when the pain comes, I've got something to pull from. I've got relationships to lean on. I've got strength from within me to pull on. I've got belief systems that have been challenged and tried that I can pull on and depend on. I've got faith that has legs. It's not just, oh my gosh, I never thought about any of this before. And y'all, I got to tell you, for the majority of my 20s, I never did any of that work. It was so much easier to look outward than to look inward. But by looking inward, we actually take some ownership for our life. And in so doing, we actually take a lot of power that we've outsourced and given to everybody else. Oh, you tell me what's important. You tell me what to believe. You tell me that I'm worthy. But in and by way of going inward, we actually are like, oh man, what do I think? What do I believe? What do I want? And in that process, we come to know who we are so that then we can be strong for other people when they're failing or falling. We have something of ourselves to stand on so that when there is pain that arises, we've got somewhat of a foundation so that we don't fall to the wayside, but we can actually give and support other people. It's also so that when other people hurt us, we're able to still love them, because if our worth is tied to who they are and how they show up, then man, if they've got a bad day, then now we're having a bad day. But if we're able to love them and they're able to exist outside of us and we're just like two entities coexisting rather than I'm attached to you and my well-being is contingent on your well-being. So if you've got a bad day, we're both having a bad day. Rather, if we really are internally sourced from this place of, yes, I've got all these echo chambers that I'm a part of, and I know what I believe, and I'm able to be a nucleus and have all these echo chambers around us, our family, our loved ones, our religious settings, our schools, our social media, and I know, I'm confident, I've done the work, and I'm continuing to grow and evolve, and yes, I'm tuning into these echo chambers with intention, but I'm the one in the driver's seat of my life. And then, let's say an echo chamber falls flat. And that happens a lot with religion. I'm not sure if you guys are privy to any of that, but like a lot of times there's some scandal. Well, if that echo chamber has actually been the superordinate principle in my life, then everything falls flat. But if I am at the nucleus and I've got all of these things circumventing me, man, it's okay. That echo chamber, I'm going to question that, see what's going on. Something's wrong there, clearly. And I'm fine. I'm good. My whole world isn't crashing and burning. I'm able to maintain some semblance of stability. And so, by way of you and me actually being the nucleus in our lives, and yes, having superordinate principles that we adhere to, like who does God say that I am? And having some, I guess you could say, even moral absolutes, to ground us and guide us. That's so helpful so that then we can continue with the evolution of growth, with the evolution of healing, with the evolution of learning something new. You know, it's exciting to evolve and grow and be different. I want to be different at the end of this year. I want to be different at the end of this month. I want to grow on an ongoing basis, yet grow with all of that change, circumnavigating the core tenets and principles of who I am, so that there's a stability when people engage with me. I'm not a kite, or maybe even better analogy is like a tent without stakes or pegs, where like I'm just floating around all the time. It's like, no, these superordinate principles are grounding me. I've got my nucleus. I know who I am. I know what I believe. And I'm going to keep access open to these echo chambers so I can continue to learn and grow. And I've got a multitude of them. And I'm continuously engaging, even in my own nucleus. I know how to battle with my own mind and with my own self, and sense an emotion or have a thought and take out both and analyze it and be like, actually, that's not right. That's not in alignment with who I want to be. So you're going to go. And being able to do that is unbelievably powerful, because now we're not living subjective to every whim, every wake, every thought, every emotion. Now we're able to truly be in the driver's seat. And then maybe we've got an emotion or a thought or a friend or a social media post or some piece of world news that comes into the passenger seat, and we're like, oh hey, what do you got to tell me? What's going on? What's this that the echo chamber is presenting to me? But we get to analyze it rather than being subjective to it. So with that, let me go ahead and jump in the chat. It's so good to see you guys. Steve, thank you so much for joining. I'm not sure what you mean here, so you can unpack that for me. Johnny Burge, thanks for joining. M. Joel, I love that. Isaiah, I think 3632. No, I'm not AI. I'm real. Truth, AI generated, unoriginal. Tell us what you really feel. I'm sitting outside. I'm looking at this gorgeous moon in Arizona, and it's like the most wonderful night. My parents are inside in our hotel room right now, and I'm just honestly having the best night. So that's how I'm feeling so grateful. I really love my parents. And I'm so glad my dad's okay. We had a scare earlier this week. So guy that comments, I miss my old echo chambers, felt like home. How interesting. I'm sorry I missed your original comments. I'd love to know what happened to them. Like, did you have to give them up? Are you no longer a part of them? I'd love to hear kind of more of what you mean by that. Lendl Jr. Yes, I have 2 YouTube streams. So I'm answering to a couple of different places. Will Castro, hi. Puptin. Putin. Y'all, I'm tired. I need to go to bed. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Truth says AI is going to fool a lot of people. You could already see it. Yes. It's wild. I was actually talking with somebody about this today. I think conversations like tonight, it's probably and every night. I mean, I go live now 3 times a day. I go live in the morning on the Knowing Show to go through A Course in Miracles. I go live every night with y'all. And then I started right after this, I'm hopping over to Foundation First Marketing, which is for the first time, I'm really talking business there and marketing and branding. And my family has a 100-year-old painting business. And so we talk business over there. So I'm going to be hopping over there, but it's a brand new channel. So now I'm going live 3 times a day. But to your point, I think that live is so, that's where equity and trust is built, because, well, for me, I'm all about relationships and I'm all about connection. And so I don't know. I don't want to be brand building a lot. I'm seeing that so much among my colleagues, where it's building brands based off of AI. And yes, they train the bot to sound like them. Great. And I want to engage with you. So if you're not going to be engaging, and I'm saying the proverbial you, if we're not going to be posting real stuff, I kind of I want to know that it's not really you posting, and I think I want to disengage and go somewhere else where it's like a real person. And frankly, y'all, I love having conversations with you. In truth, you said I would rather watch a real human. I'm right there with you. Tim Smith agreed. I'm just skipping through some of this. Fabio, thank you. I agree. Isaiah, I'm just scrolling down. Oh, Ahmet, how do you deal with the reality that we're all going to die someday? What a heavy, important question. Well, my brother-in-law was killed, so I'm sitting with that one because it's such an important question. And to be honest with you, I'm like, I'm feeling things in my body to that question. I want to live life so well. I want to live life so well. I want to honor. Man, this question, man, you got me emotional tonight. I want to honor him, my brother-in-law who was killed at 26 years old. He had a 3-week-old baby girl, and my sister. It's just like, it's so unfair. So in one sense, it's so unfair that we die, and that's life, and it's so unfair how we die so young. So it's like, I want to live so fully and so brightly for his sake. I want to live so brightly and fully for my sake. I don't want to go literally to the grave with regrets. I think that's the biggest thing. I actually, what's so interesting? I've never thought about it this way. So thank you for asking this. I'm so grateful for this question because I think I just had a breakthrough by you asking that. So thank you. And I really mean that. I think that if I was to die young, but I lived every day fully and lived in a way that I was proud of, that it almost doesn't matter how young you die. So my brother-in-law, he lived every day. He really did. He was a phenomenal friend. He was a phenomenal husband, a phenomenal son. He loved and lived so well. He taught my sister things that I'm now employing in my life. 12 years later, 11 years later, this young kid, he was 26 when he was killed. 26. That's so young. And I remember turning 26. I remember turning 27 and 28 and 20. Every year it's I'm that much further away from the age he was. And what have I done? How have I lived? So I now, man, do I want to live so intentionally. There's this song lyric that I found and I just love it. It says, I want to live this one wild life and I want to rip it apart. I want to live viscerally engaged with the world. So talk about AI. Man, do I want to live present here in the now, physically engaging with the world. Even being outside right now, feeling the wind and seeing the moon right there. And it's just man, I love this world and I want to engage with it. I don't want to be sitting here behind a screen for my life or hiding behind my phone. I want to live life and I want to create experiences where we all engage with each other. Even so what a blessing this modality is that we get to have conversations like this. So freaking cool. And I want to live awake and alert and alive and not miss out on anything. So I think that that's how I want to that's how I reconcile with us dying young is that. All right. On to the next. Thank you for asking that. That was a very, very meaningful question. Thank you, Amit. Thank you. Hua, good to see you. Good evening. Sending you positive energy and gratitude. Thank you. Benjamin, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Your spirit condensed in this material body. Don't love the world too much. That's when people die early. Interesting. I don't think that's always when they die early, but I hear what you're saying. It's don't hold on tightly. I see in terms of holding on tightly, whatever we grasp so tightly to is so often what slips away from us. So I think that that's very, very profound. Y'all, thank you so much for joining tonight. This conversation of what are our echo chambers, I think is really important. You know, who are we getting advice from? Is it the same types of people who all believe the same things we believe? Are we ever posing our questions and our thoughts and decisions that we might make? Are we getting advice and getting feedback from people, frankly, people that we know we won't agree with? But are we humble enough and open enough to go to people that we know will have opposing opinions and say, well, tell me why you think I shouldn't do that? That's a mark of maturity. That's something that I want to continue to grow in. Like, intentionally going to people that I think won't agree with me and asking why, and why to understand, not why to argue, not why to contend, but like, tell me why. I want to understand. Am I missing something here? You know, there's something about trusting people enough to know their heart and say, if you think something different than me, then I might very well be missing a piece of life. Or and even, you know, I listen to and read Letting Go, and one of the things that this book says is that effectively anytime we place any thought or belief or opinion with my before it, so my belief, my opinion, my whatever, now I'm all of a sudden grasping onto it. And so to your point, whatever we grasp so tightly onto, it effectively can actually become a trap for us. And we may end up being more susceptible to losing it to begin with. And so to that point, I think that there's really something important about just saying, this is the opinion that I'm holding right now. This is what I'm thinking right now. What do you think? And really being curious, because now we can take an idea and analyze it, take a thought and analyze it, take an emotion and analyze it. That's what's so cool. I just love data. And I never knew that I did until I was acting as fractional chief marketing officer for this like home service company in the Midwest. And I was getting so nerded out around data. And I was like, this is so cool. I love numbers. And I love the emotional component, empathy, and being able to connect with people and really understand people's hearts and souls. And it's awesome. And the more we can actually have an analytical mind and be critical in a positive way, like critical thinking, being observant and curious, asking why. And I think curious is actually the best word for it. The people who I've talked to, who are the most successful people out of anyone I know, they all mention curiosity, being able like to have the mind of a child, to have the mind of one that is open and one that's curious, and really just kind of lean into that and be like, all right, tell me more. I want to know. And so I'd love for that more so to be cultivated in myself and in all of us, being curious and wanting to know what is true and what's true for me right now. Because I'm not talking about the superordinate principles of truth. I'm talking about right now in my life, this value or this season really warrants this way of living. Maybe I need a season of just being quiet and kind of shut myself off from the world so that I can come to know who I am. And I needed that season for the last 3 years. And now I'm in a season where it's like, okay, now I really want to engage with other people. And now I'm bridging the vertical alignment with the horizontal world of like, how do I engage in relationship with other people in a way that I maintain who I am, yet also allow myself the dexterity and flexibility of being open to what they have to say. That's really, it's been challenging and so good and so hard. And again, it's like going into the arena. Theodore Roosevelt talks about that, going into the arena and being flexible and moldable for the purpose of growth. And actually, I'm going to hop over to my Foundation First Marketing show. If you guys want to come over and join me, I'll drop the link down. Some of you were able to come over yesterday, and it was very fun to have a friend over there. So I'll drop the link there. It's a brand new channel that I'm starting. And again, we talk business. So and other points of what constitutes a business, you know? So I'll go ahead and drop the chat here or the link here if you guys want to come over and join me. I would love, love, love to have you. And we're going to be continuing the conversation that we had yesterday around relationships and being able to hold this kind of open approach and mind to what do you think and what do you believe. Those are really, really, really important, regardless if we're doing business or I talk about it from the boardroom, that ability to be open, to the bedroom, that ability to be open. Both are so important. Every single relationship, every single dynamic with others, do we actually have the curiosity to engage? So I'm going to go talk about it a little bit more over there. But in the meantime, y'all, thank you so much for joining. I loved our conversations tonight. Thanks for helping me out when I forgot. I forgot iceberg. You know, it's all for us, isn't it? So anyways, I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna go hop over to Foundation first. I'll be on probably in about 5 minutes. But with that, thank you all so much for joining me tonight on the Knowing Show. I will be live tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll be going through our Course in Miracles together for our daily lesson on February 2nd. So with that, have a wonderful night. Happy Sunday, and I will talk to you soon.